Hey, everybody. It's Auntie Paige of We Are Your Aunties. And boy, have I got a special surprise for you tonight. Ready to have some fun? Come on and join us.
Hey, Auntie.
Hey, everybody. Here we are again, kings and queens, our family. How is everybody out there tonight?
Yeah.
How are our aunties? I hope y'all
Oh,
are good.
in the great.
And I hope y'all are ready for some action and some fun.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah,
All
speaking
right.
of action,
Let's go.
so I introduced to our audience our special guest. Our
Ooh.
special guest is inside of here. And I
Hmm.
just cannot wait to play with our audience with what's inside of this box. But before I do, I kind of want to lay a foundation like I always do. First of all, how was your day, ladies?
Oh, you know what? I'm excited on Thursday. So today is always great for me
I
on
love
Thursday.
it. Love it. How about you, Auntie Genoa?
I couldn't wait to get off work so I can come and be here.
Wow. I'm excited. Oh, I'm so super excited. I can barely even wait. Okay. So I want to tell you all that I attended a very rather expensive, very intensive workshop, 5-day workshop. And when I say 5-day, it was like from 8 in the morning until 5 in the evening every day.
Mm.
And what we were talking about is personalities.
Wow.
And so I just thought, with the Healing the Wounds of American Slavery book and all the issues that come up for us around our personalities, masking and pretending, shape shifting, code switching, all of the things that we kind of inherited from our ancestors as they inherited the need to do it from their oppressors, right? But
Yes.
it still lives in our culture today. Would you agree?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Very much.
Definitely.
Very
And
much
it
so.
shows up in so many different ways. But I thought we'd have some fun tonight because what I was doing at that training is I was being certified to get down to the roots of your personality, your character, and how all of that works together to make up who you are. And so I'm going to share that with our audience tonight because what I want to do is attempt to bring us back to our center in terms of our essence, who we are, whose we are, and what it is that we're brought here to do, right? So we're talking about our purpose and our mission tonight. And I also, if we have time, I hope that we do, I want to get into a little bit of love languages.
Ooh.
Do you all know anything about love languages?
I sure do.
Mr. Chapman, Gary Chapman, wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages. And you know what's interesting? It's like we always tend, my husband and myself, we always tend to know what's coming about 10 years prior. Because before anybody else knew what love languages was, we were already studying it, right? It's really before people were getting into genealogy and talking about slavery and all of that, we were already working on it. And that's not to brag or boast, but it's just to say, you want to continue to stay ahead of the curve. And so I'm going to attempt to have us stay ahead of this curve as, this new trend comes in where you're really getting down to the essence of who you are. Now, there are a lot of different personality assessments, right?
Yes, there is.
But this one comes from a company called Bank Code. And it really has nothing to do with the bank. But that's the name of the company. I want to give them credit because I'm going to be using a few of their instruments. So what is inside of this box? Well, let me show you.
Oh.
Inside of this box is a pair of blue. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it with the green screen. Blue. A pair of red.
Oh.
A pair of green. Oh God, that's really not going to go over well. Yes, it will once I put it in my face. And a pair of yellow glasses.
Okay.
And what these represent are filters. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Let's get into it. When our ancestors were stolen and brought to the colonies by their oppressors, the colonizers, right? They immediately stripped them of their names. They immediately stripped them of all culture that would ground them in who they are. They stripped them of their religions. They stripped them of everything they could possibly be stripped of. And then they were given new names. John, Bessie, Leroy, whatever. The names were Tom, Susan, had nothing to do with who that person is, because if we know anything about what God does, God is about heritage and legacy and genealogy, and we all have our names for a reason.
Yes.
Where we're supposed to.
Yes.
And so that is one of the things that, gives us grounding in who we are. My name is Paige. There are several meanings for my name. I like the French meaning the best. My father named me. And when he named me, there were not a lot of pages. I mean, it would be a blue moon before I would run into another page. Now there are all these young pages running around. But my father gave me a Y, Payge. And he did that for a reason. And my name means young servant of the Lord. And so just, as kind of an intro to where we're about to go. So I have these little cards. One is blue. One is red. One is yellow. And one, believe it or not, is green. Oh, this is going to go over well. We'll bring it up on the screen in just a minute. As a matter of fact, DY, can you bring up our first card, the blue card? No, don't do it yet. Let me do this first. Blue.
You got cartoon eyes.
I have two eyes.
No, you got cartoon eyes.
Cartoon eyes.
Yeah.
That's okay. So these blue glasses represent a personality type. The blue glasses represent blueprint personality. A blueprint personality is about stability, structure, systems, planning, processes, predictability, responsibility, duty, rules, credentials, titles, and tradition. Very good. Thank you, DY. So a person, if you're meeting a person for the first time and they appear to be stable, have structure, enjoy systems, planning, processes, predictability, responsibility, duty, rules, credential, titles, tradition, you know the type. Everything's in order. All the ducks are in a row. Everything's organized. Then you've met a blueprint personality. Let's go to our next one. Let's go to A, action, the red card. If you meet a person and they're all about freedom and flexibility and spontaneity and action and opportunity, excitement, attention, stimulation, competition, winning, fun, and image, you've met an action type personality.
Yes.
The next one is N, nurturing. So if you meet a person who's a nurturer, they will have the characteristics of enjoying building relationships. They're very authentic, personal, all about personal growth, significance. Things have to mean something to them. Teamwork, involvement, community, charity, ethics, harmony, morality, and contribution. That is a nurturer. And last but not least, and I won't even try to show you the card, but I'll attempt to do the glasses. I don't know how this is going to work. Oh, it does work. Very good, because it's on my face. So the N personality is knowledge. This person is all about learning, intelligence, logic, self-mastery, technology, research and development, science, universal truths, expertise, competence, accuracy, and the big picture. So we have all of these wounds, right? We have a bunch of wounds that we've inherited from the legacy of slavery, whether through behavioral patterns, whether through our DNA, whether from an example of, people that we lived with, whatever that is. We have all of these wounds. And so what we've always said is that these wounds are within us. And sometimes when we come face to face with others in relationship, what tends to happen is if one person exhibits one wound, like being a doormat, right? Like just beat down, just abused, just misused, just victim, just doormat. And then you've got another personality that's rageful. That's going to be a bad combination.
Right.
Well, what's interesting about the personality traits is, first of all, I want you to know that each and every one of us has all 4 personality traits within us.
Yeah.
All 4. Action, knowledge, action. I'm sorry if I do it the other way. Blueprint, action, knowledge, and nurturing. But we'll use different parts of our personalities at different times. And usually, now watch this. Usually there's one personality that supersedes, or one personality trait. We don't want to be full of personalities. That would be schizophrenia. But usually there's one personality trait that stands out more than the others in an individual, right? Yeah. So tonight we're going to explore, which personality type are you? And I also want you to understand that if you're working on a project, for example, like we're community building, this is interesting because the wounds and the personality traits all come into play when we're attempting to organize anything. So if you've got an action person, let's just go. Let's just get started. Just have faith. Just step out. We don't need a plan. Let's just go. We'll plan as we go. Compared to a knowledge person who's like, no, now everyone calm down and wait. Let's be logical about this. We need to understand the big picture. No, let's just go. No. Let's just take our time and figure this thing out. I'm not moving until I know for sure. And then you've got the nurturer who just wants to make sure everybody's okay. I just want to make sure everyone's all right. Is everybody here okay before we get going? And then there's Blueprint who says, we have a blueprint. What's wrong with everybody? How come we just can't follow the steps? Well, I think we should all get everybody together and be very democratic about this and decide who's going to go first, second, and third, and what steps we're going to take. But I just want to make sure that everyone's taken care of. They're warm, they're fed. Well, you know what? I packed up everything. Everybody's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Let's go. All right. What's taking so long? What is taking so long? Well, it's because we didn't figure out exactly the point. So
the household right there.
Wait, say it again.
I said it sounds like a household right there.
It's a community. It's a community. Yes.
Getting ready for church on Sunday morning with your children.
So let's just talk about. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I said, it sounds like a show. Producing a show.
Well, it could be. It could be. And you know what? It is a certain kind of show, isn't it? So I just want to talk about exactly what these are. So the blueprint is a planner. We're talking about values and beliefs, right? The blueprint personality is a planner. They value stability. They want to make sure they're safe. They want to make sure that everybody is coloring between the lines, that we don't go too far without understanding the structure here Don't go outside of the structure. We need stability. We need systems. Who's doing what, when, and where, and how. And then let's do our check off to make sure that everything is happening properly.
Your turn.
And then the planning. They prefer to plan on their own because then they don't have to take care of everybody and make sure everybody's okay. They don't have to worry about people trying to put their own ideas on them. They just, want to go about doing their planning their way. Predictability. They are very predictable. Processes. They have to have processes in place. They're very responsible. Let's not do anything. Let's not be rash. Let's not be hasty. And duty. They believe in duty, rules, credentials. How many degrees do you have? Where's your title before I decide if I want to follow you? And they're very, very big on tradition. And what we know about tradition is that when things change, when traditions change, then we need to be able to pivot and shift depending on what the tradition is, because sometimes the tradition is a common thread between all of our values. I'm gonna ask you a big question in just a minute. Action. This is a doer. They value. Now remember, these are values. Freedom, flexibility, spontaneity. They don't like to be tied down. They like to have the opportunity to go into action at any given moment without any strings attached. They're very excited most of the time. They like attention, most action personalities. And if they don't like it, they attract it anyway, because they always tend to be a little bit more charismatic than everybody else in the room. Stimulation. They have to have something going all the time. And they're competitive beings. Like, I'm going to do it better and faster and more powerfully than it's ever been done before. Even if they're not competing against other people, you'll find action personalities competing against themselves. And they like to win. They love to win. I want to win. I want to win. Fun. Love having fun. Let's make it fun. Let's not have it be dull. And they also care very much about their image. They're always looking fabulous. Then there's the nurturer. Right. Then there's the nurturer. Now the nurturer is a caregiver. They strongly value relationships. They're very authentic, but without hurting anyone's feelings. I'll tell you the truth, without hurting anyone's feelings. They value personal growth, but not just for themselves, but for everybody around them. Everybody's got to grow. I can't just outgrow. And that's why nurturers sometimes get left behind in a sense, because people are, the operation is outpacing what they can keep up with, because they're just interested in everyone being included. Also, significance. Is it important? Everything that they do is very, very important to them. So you'll find they talk a lot. They have to have teamwork and involvement. Community is a strong suit with them. Charity, giving. They're big givers. I mean, just almost to a fault. They believe in ethics. Like, that wasn't right. That wasn't fair. Harmony. Let's all make sure that we're working together and that everyone is okay and everyone's happy. Morality and contribution. So, is it right? Is it right what we're doing? That's what they're asking. And then finally, knowledge. This is your big researcher. They value learning, intelligence. They do not have time for basic conversations. You won't find a knowledge personality most times in a conversation that's based on small talk. They're very logical. Does it make sense? I don't care about how you feel. Does it make sense? self-mastery, which is essentially control. Technology, very much, and you'll find this personality very much in the technology field. Research and development. I need to know how this works. There'd be the kid that takes apart the radio and puts it back together again, that kind of thing. Science, universal truths, which really comes down to what's real in the world. What's true? What's true for everybody? What's true? What's the common thread between everyone and everything? They don't play with people who are just kind of dabbling in a subject. They want the expert. If they themselves are often experts, doctors, lawyers, scientists. They're in those fields often. Competence. Can this person really get the job done? That's all I want to know. I don't care how fast you do it, Miss Action. I don't care if everyone's included, Miss Nurturer. I don't care how much your ducks are in a row. Are you competent at doing what you're doing? And accuracy, pinpoint, laser sharp accuracy. And they also need to know the big picture. So moving into this conversation, I want to ask the question, first of all, which one of those sounds like you the most?
The nurturer.
The nurturer the most.
Yeah, because relationships are very important to me.
Why?
I guess being an eldest child, I was in charge of a lot of stuff, and I was like the go-between between the parents and the sibling, and I just had a lot of responsibilities growing up. And so if the relationships was out of harmony, I was going to be out of harmony.
Got you. So would you say that is your true personality, or that personality came about as a result of your responsibilities as a child?
That came about because of my responsibility as a child, which I had to do for a long period of time. And when you have to do something for a long period of time, it seems like it's you. But the thing is, I still carry a lot of this, and so I can't. It's ingrained. I can't just get away from it.
I love that. I love that you know that about yourself, because there are a lot of people who have a certain personality trait that's their primary. They think it's their primary personality trait, but it came about as either trauma, which I'm not saying you had trauma, but either a traumatic situation or something that called upon them to be or do something else. And that happens a lot in our community as a result of what we went through generationally and our cultural construct, where it just seems like that's the thing that's necessary, is that, we have to meet up to some specific standard in order to be accepted. So we change who we are, the shape shifting and the code switching, right? What about you, Auntie Rose?
You know what? Nurturer. And yeah, I am. And it's the same thing. I mean, being the oldest child and
you're frozen. Oh, that oldest child theme is coming up again, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes.
I hope she comes back.
It's just a thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. So I will share with you until she gets back. Okay. Can you guess which is my primary personality trait?
Action. All gas and no brakes, lady.
Bing, 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 bing.
All gas and no brakes.
Yes. And what's interesting is that is actually my true personality trait. And when I look into the community, I see a lot of parents who attempt to hold their child back because they think they might be getting into dangerous territory. Like, don't do that job. For example, being a police officer or a fireman or something, or a woman. They hold them back from that because they don't want them to be in danger. Well, I had a parent who was very much into early childhood development, very much into full self-expression of personalities. And even though I had a brother who was totally knowledge, another one who was totally blueprint, And I think my mother was definitely mostly nurturer. That's what she did. She nurtured each one of our gifts and talents and our personalities such that we could be who we were. But that came because of her, not because, it was just something innate in each of, our innate personalities came to the surface because of what was innate in her, if that makes sense. She nurtured that. So let's talk about why this does and does not work in our communities.
Well, one thing, it doesn't work in our communities because, okay, when you talked about your mother nurturing who you were, I was told you can't do this, you can't do that, you don't need to go over there. If you go into this, everything had a big reason why, about holding me into the spot that I was placed in. I couldn't never get out of it. But my younger siblings, but the one that was under me, she was kind of held a little bit, but not as much as me. The third one, she was a little bit more free, but the youngest one, she was totally free to just go out and explore and all this other stuff because the parents got tired. Yeah. The oldest child carries the hopes and the dreams of most parents.
Yeah. You know what this also points to is like in certain organizations, when I think about, for example, the Black Panthers, and I was born and raised in Oakland, California. So I know a lot about that history. And I also know about, the infighting and the power struggles and the misogyny. While it was, a glorious moment for us in terms of unity for a moment, at the end of the day, it was the wounds, it was the personality types, it was the power structure, it was all of that, and the infiltration from COINTELPRO and other things. But it's those personality disparities, not disparities, but differences. Because there's no disparity. I mean, you are who you are, but it's the personality differences that made, I think, the infrastructure eventually not as workable as it was in the beginning. So I want to go into, for the second half of our show, I want to talk about love languages. I've been seeing a lot of fighting between Black men and Black women on the internet. I've been seeing a lot of low self-esteem. I've been seeing disrespect between Black males and Black females, older people and younger people. I've been seeing a lot of that. And a lot of it has to do with our wounds, and it's surfacing and we have to deal with it. We've, for so long, tried to pretend and deny that we even had wounds, right? But now that we are in the throes of healing our wounds, or at least scratching the surface of it, now we need to look a little bit deeper. So first of all, I want to explain that Gary Chapman is the author of a book called The 5 Love Languages, and that's where this information comes from. And it's important that we not only know what our love language is, but the love language of those that we're closest to. And so let's just go through a little bit of this. So let's talk about what love languages do. So essentially what love languages do is they fill up our love tank. They make us feel admired. They make us feel valued. They make us feel that we're a benefit to others. They make us feel as though we're loved. We're loved in the most interesting, the most powerful, the most amazing, the most important way that we need to be loved. So sometimes if we have a love language, like, for example, there's the love language of touch. Some of us just love to be hugged and touched and, just someone put a hand on us or massaged. And then others, like, that's not their love language. They don't want that. But what if you are a person who loves touch, but you have a mate who doesn't like that? That's not their love language. Well, then maybe they have the love language of service. And so even though they aren't really into that, they aren't into being touched themselves in that way, they would rub your feet. So there's the language of touch, the love language of service, acts of service. There's the love language of words of affirmation, There's the love language of time, like spending quality time together. And then there's the love language of gifting, right? Giving or receiving gifts. And you could have more than one of these love languages, first of all. And the other thing too about the love languages is that they change as you grow, as you evolve. They have the potential and the probability to change. So one of the things that we teach in our Black male-female relationships course is to understand, first of all, what your love language is, your primary love language, and then what the love language is of the one that you're courting or dating or getting involved with, so that you can really love each other at the highest level. Because if my love language is gifts, but then somebody is always wanting to spend time, or they're showering me with, words. I mean, words are great, but that's not my love language. Acts of service. My primary love language is gifts. My husband's primary love language is service. And so when I do something for him, it fills up his love tank. When he gives me a gift, then it doesn't have to be something physical. It can be, he I don't know, does something that I really didn't feel like doing. That's a gift to me. Filling up my car, that's service on his behalf, but it's a gift to me because then I don't have to go fill it up. You see what I mean? So do you know what your love language is?
Well, growing up, my love language was words, because I didn't get the words. If I wasn't doing what was expected of me, the words were few and far between. So when I got the words, they were like gold to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like whenever I was doing something, whatever I did, it just seemed like it was, well, you could have, if I got an A, or no, if I got a B, well, you should have got an A.
Oh, wow.
Or you could have did a little bit more here. It was, so I was looking to be affirmed.
Yes.
The thing, after you reach a certain age, you can't be looking for affirmation because it'll hold you back.
Well, but if that's your love language, then that's your love language.
No, that was my love language based on
then.
Okay. But the thing is, I found that when you're an adult and you didn't get that, and that was my love language as growing up. And I need the words, but I don't need the words as much as I need other things.
I got it. Can we have more than one love language? Absolutely. You probably do. But there's usually a primary love language. And then there are others that come along with that. You know what I just recognized? And it's true for you, so it's true for someone else. So this isn't about you necessarily, but it's true for someone else. I recognize that when we talked about the personalities, and you were saying that your personality type when you were growing up was very nurturing, and that was based on your responsibilities as the oldest child and being responsible for the younger ones. And then your love language was words of affirmation. Genoa, you did a great job taking care of the younger ones. I noticed that you had dinner on the table by a certain time. Anything was just, yes. And those were when you were growing up. So this is interesting because this is what I've noticed too, is that, as I said before, as we grow and evolve and change, so does our love language. Mm-hmm. And so, Rose, we're so good to see you back, Auntie Rose.
Black rollouts, I don't know what's going on, but I need to finish what I was talking about. And hopefully that's
we want to know what you were saying.
Yeah, we definitely want to do that.
Okay, thank you.
So I think that let's finish where we are here. Okay. Just the last thought, and then we'll go back to where we were. And I believe that you were talking about your personality traits.
Nurturer.
Right? Nurturer. Okay. So what we're talking about here is the 5 love languages, the book by Gary Chapman. And the different ways that people like to be, well, they need to be loved in order to feel fulfilled and important and valued, right? And just the benefit of knowing not only our own love language or languages, but our spouse or our loved ones, our brothers, sisters, whoever's around us. Our, co-workers, if that's appropriate. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we don't need to know, right? But other times, if we work, say in a nonprofit organization that provides services for young people, then you do want to know your co-workers' love languages. And if you have a really great team, then you want to know, because you want to know how to love on the people and how to motivate them through love to get them where they need to be on the team. So yes, we could definitely go back to what you were saying about personalities, because you know what? At the end of the day, our personalities have a lot to do with the way we like to be loved, that we need to be loved. So you were saying that your personality type is nurturer.
Yeah, it is. I think basically because of the same thing with Genoa. And just being the eldest child, I had a lot of responsibilities, especially, everybody knows, my mother passed away when I was 10. So that's when I became the little adult. And I had to come up with things in a 10-year-old's mind to take care of my other 5 siblings. So it was like something I had to do, whether I was stomping around learning. I didn't get a chance to learn anything because I was around like really young babysitters, like 22 and all. They were interested in just partying all the time. So I felt a need to just jump in there. So, but I have a lot of, I want to say the red card. I have a lot of that. I have a lot of all of them, because I've always called myself a chameleon. And to me, that was a mechanism that I had to use in order to fit in certain circles. Said, okay, well, you're a trip. Let me just, long handle spoon, as the old folks used to say. I had to do that. It's something I had to adapt in my life, because, sometimes you're trying to help someone and they just go left and you're like, what? So I had to learn to adapt. So I'm really good at that, adapting, because I've had to do it so long. So, but I am a nurturer. I do want to make sure everybody is fine. I do want people to feel at home, kick your shoes off. I do want to serve, and I don't.
That's interesting.
I do it because it's in me, and I think Genoa had a little bit of, Auntie Genoa had a little bit of that. It's just stuck. It's just like right here. It's here. I have to, because I can't take it off. It's like a badge. I can't take it off, because and sometimes it's a little bit, sometimes I don't want to say I'm harboring any ill will. That's not what I want to say, but I am like, wow, if I only had the chance, if I only had this, I think I would be better to do this or that. That's why I love acting so much, because you can not really hide. You can hide behind a character, but you can just come out and you can just do whatever.
Different form of expression.
Yes, and I love that, because I had to hold down and had to shut up and had to choke on words and different things. So I understand where I had to be.
I would say that your true personality is action. Your true personality. Because you just said, if you didn't have to hold it down, if you didn't have to toe the line, if you didn't have to do the things, and you learned that as an adaptive behavior, you said, when you were in a situation where you had to be the helper, you had to be the nurturer. And so you can do those things, but we're talking about personality. And part of what we're talking about is what our ancestors had to experience when they were brought here to this country, the colonies, and how they had to morph and adapt. And you brought up the perfect word, chameleon. changing with the environment to suit whoever was there that needed or wanted to be suited. Somebody just had a question. I believe it was Desi. She said, so what if one is not exactly sure if they have a love language? Everyone has a love language. You're a child of God. You have a love language. So then the thing is to discover it. Just as it's going to be important for all of us, here's the glorious part about getting rid of these wounds. Here's the glorious part. The glorious part about getting rid of the wounds is that your true personality and your true character comes up to the surface. It's not even that it comes up to the surface. It's like it's being chiseled away at. Like all the muck and mire of the childhood and what I had to do and how I had to be and the chameleon, all the things are hammered away, chiseled away. I always tell this story, and I don't know if I've told it on the show yet, about Michelangelo, but I'll tell it now. So Michelangelo, we all know, was a famous Italian artist. And in his era, they used to have patrons who would pay for artists to make art. And so that's how he was living. There was a huge piece of marble in the town square, in the middle of the square, whatever city he was in. I don't remember what city, but it was an Italian city in a square, big piece of marble. And all the other artisans wouldn't touch it. And the reason they wouldn't touch it is because it had a huge crack in it. And they were afraid that the minute their chisel and hammer hit the marble, it would just break into a zillion pieces. And marble, of course, we know is very expensive, very sought after material to work with, right? And so Michelangelo asked his patron, would he please get this piece of marble for him? And he essentially said, they got it for a very good price because nobody wanted to touch it. And Michelangelo ended up carving the statue of David out of that piece of marble, which is one of the most famous European art pieces in the world ever. And so when he was asked why he chose that piece of marble to work on when nobody else wanted to touch it, he said, because all of the other artists, when they looked at this piece of marble, they saw a huge piece of marble with this big gash in it. But when I looked at the piece of marble, I saw the statue of David. And so our lives, Black people, are like the statue of David. There's all this muck, mire, denial, fronting, masking, pretending, doing all the things, rolling over, hiding from fear, trauma. And it's okay. White people too, okay? but we're talking about the ravages of American slavery. And interestingly, even the descendants of white slave owners have all that muck and mire all over them too. Because how would their ancestors been able to inflict it on others if it wasn't already inside of them? Right? So what's inside, what's on the outside, the trauma, the damage, all of that, it needs to be chiseled away. And so it begins to be chiseled away by the questions that we're asking.
Wow.
Who am I? Because I had to be a nurturer. I had to. I had to stay in action just to keep my own sanity. This is a green card. It's not going to show up, but I had to know. I had to gain knowledge because everything was so unsure and unstable around me. I had to keep organization. I had to build structure. But without that situation, right, or that trauma or whatever it was that caused us to adopt a false personality, that whatever that was, it's got to go.
Yeah.
It's got to go.
It's got to go, because we need to be our true selves in order to free ourselves up, in order to be able to unify in a real way and be able to all these personalities work together. Okay, so we got an action over here. But action needs some structure to their activity. So these two can really work together as long as they know this action is not going to be very structured. So I cannot expect this person to be like me.
Right.
But we all need each other in order to get where it is we're trying to go. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
So I will tell you that there's a deeper study on this. And I told you that I was in this class. I was taking this certification. And what I was able to do, because I have the certification, is give an assessment that takes it even deeper to what your primary personality trait, to how much of each one do you have in you.
Wow. So you can get the percentages? Wow.
See, there's knowledge. I told you, your knowledge.
Okay.
Yes.
Knowledge all day. and you probably have pretty much maybe equal parts of knowledge and nurture, but we should find out. I'll do one for each of you, free of charge. Nothing, no charge, because I need to know. But when I did the test, for example, my numbers are very even. They're only off by 1 or 2 points each. But my primary is definitely action. Definitely action.
Go put the red ones on. Go put them on.
Yeah.
But
the reason that I'm able the reason that it works for me, if I was all action, no order, no structure, no knowledge, no nurture, I would just be gone and just doing something out there, not including anyone else, just going. But that's not how I operate, because I'm also very structured.
Yes.
I also have a lot of knowledge behind what I'm doing. And I also care very much about people.
Yes.
And so that's what makes it work. But when we're all together with all these different personalities, we need them all. We can't just have a person full of knowledge. I know everything. But when are you going to do something with it? Or the organizer. I'm here organizing. Yes, but are you paying attention to the other people? That's what you're supposed to be organizing for. So it's I don't know. It's I think, a great exercise to go through to put the personalities together with the love languages. So let's see. So someone has a question. So we are getting rid of the dross so the gold shines through.
Yep.
We can just end the show right there. Because that is exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Do you know that there is an instrument in gold refining? It's called a crucible. It's like the shape of a cup. And the crucible is meant to hold gold so that the gold can be fired at the highest temperatures so the gold can melt. Because as Darren just pointed out, what happens when the gold melts is that all the impurities come up to the surface. And then they take and scrape off all the impurities. And you've got gold. But not yet. If you want it more pure, guess what has to happen?
They'll fire it again.
You have to go back through that process again and again and again. That's why you have 10 karat gold, 14 karat gold, 24 karat gold. That's why you have all the different levels of gold, because you're taking all the metals out, as you go. It's the same thing with our lives. We think that we've got one thing conquered. And then, you get into another situation with another personality type. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh God, that person really irritates me. I've got more work to do. Broken homes can develop a false personality. Oh my God, can they ever?
Yes.
Can they ever?
I love that false personality. That's so true.
False
So
personality.
Well, that's just like divorce. Divorce, force the birth order, whatever the parent, whatever parent the child is with, the oldest to the youngest, everybody gets a role.
Right.
Everybody gets a role.
And everybody gets a different set of parents.
oh yeah.
And what I
So-
mean by that is it like if your parent has a certain personality type and they're more drawn to one or more of the children who have the same or an opposite but companion personality, right? Then that's who they'll be drawn to. And I want to say that is so true. Let me put that back up here because this is so true. Let's say for example that there is a couple, they have children, and then the children, and then the parents get divorced. Now there's a single mom taking care of the children or a single dad taking care of the children. Because the dad needs structure in the house, because when you're operating, there's an emergency vehicle, imagine that. When you're operating in scarcity or survival mode, you have to have order. Hopefully you have order, or things can completely blow up. We've seen that happen all the time. That's called dysfunction, right?
Yes.
But what if there is a child who was absolutely action?
Yeah.
And bouncing all over the place and having all these ideas and wanting to go in here and do that. And what about this? And what about that? The question child and boing, boing, boing. Then that child may be told, you know what? Sit down. Be quiet. Don't talk so much. You ask too many questions. So what happens to that that child's personality? They develop.
Or they knuckle under and they become somebody else.
Well, mom or dad, how can I help you? But that's not their personality type.
Yeah.
And yes, for the child, the personality changes for the child. It can also happen with a parent. They might be the sweetest, most nurturing, just amazing parent ever. But then because they've got to go through what they're going through now, they're just structured and they're always just thinking about how we're going to make it work. So I hope that you all have had fun with this tonight. I know I have. It's one of the things that I do most.
You know, it was packed with a lot of knowledge, believe it or not. I mean, you know,
Wow.
It was definitely packed, you know, and that's that underlying that is so clear and evident. I mean, you can just, you just soak it all up and you just can't get tired of it because it's an ongoing conversation, this is, and I can see that. So, but when you said action, my whole everything lit up. And then when you said nurturing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Well, sometimes you don't want to nurture. You want somebody to nurture you. You know what I'm saying?
Let's try something fun. That's true. That's true, Auntie. You know what?
Yes.
So true.
Yes.
And
you don't always want to be the one giving all the time. Hey, can I get a turn over here, please? Hey, I'm a person, not a robot.
Right.
But you gotta get in action, telling people what you need.
Yeah, closed mouth don't get fed.
Well, but we're all learning.
Yeah.
So Rose, I've got an exercise for you.
Okay.
Now this is the clear card, and I don't know. It's just because it's green.
No worries.
So I've got a yellow, blue, green, and red card here. So you've already said that A speaks to you the most. That just calls you out, calls to your spirit, right?
Yes, it does.
So what would be the second one? Would it be nurturing, blueprint, or knowledge? Nurturing being the one that takes care of everyone and loves it. Blueprint being the one that's very organized and structured. And green being knowledge. I got to know. I've got to get to the bottom of it.
I have to say that nurturing just screams out. But I love knowledge. I love
Which do you love most, nurture or knowledge?
knowledge. I
So
love that.
action, knowledge, and then out of nurturing and blueprint, then organizing, getting everything structured, or making sure everybody's okay.
Well, making sure everybody's okay. It's definitely not organizing. Definitely not.
So that would be okay. So then your bank code
Okay.
is AKNB. So you're at the top of your personality type is action. That's who you really are. Your action with knowledge behind it. You need to know where you're going and what you're doing. But you want to also make sure everybody around you is okay while you're doing it.
Yes.
No one's left behind. And then, somebody else could maybe do the organizing because I'm not into it.
Yeah, you have
This
to.
is not. But here's what I want to say before we close, as we're about to close, is that because we have all four parts, there are going to be some time when, even though we hate organizing, we have to call it to the front, to the top, and get it done, because it's in your mind and no one else can organize it like you can.
This is true. This is true.
Same thing with people who are just real big organizers, but they don't want to take action. They're going to have to get to the point where they can bring action up to the front and get the thing done. Right? So I'm so excited that I got to do this with you all. And I definitely do this for people. I coach. I do personal coaching, business coaching, and I'm pretty good at it. So if you're interested, please reach out to us. And anyone who reaches out to Paige M. Hopper, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the comments. Actually, DY, I'm going to ask you to do that. Paige M. Hopper on Instagram, and says that they saw me, direct message me and say that you saw me on this show. For the first 3 people that do that, I will do a personality assessment, a deep dive personality assessment with you.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I guess DY is asleep. So it is Paige M. Hopper. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. He was getting it together. I apologize. That's on me. So you have to be able to apologize when you're wrong.
You're right. You have to.
And that's part of our community too. We don't like to say we're sorry. We don't like to say we made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shame here. Look at my face. No shame. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah.
But that's why I made it a point to always apologize to my children when I was wrong, because I have people in my family that would rather give you a gift than say, I'm sorry I was wrong.
Hey, we're gonna go ahead and close our teacher Noah. I'm so sorry, we're running out of time. We're gonna get back on that next week.
Okay.
When we see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited that you came, and we'll see you all next week when we have an equally exciting time. All right. Know in the meantime that we love you and we appreciate you. Good night.
Mwah.
Good night.
So I was just thinking that it's really interesting how we have all these different personalities in our community, and yet we don't seem to be